Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. With everything going on in the world, wars, blackouts, and economic instability, it's easy to forget about the threats that have always been there. Natural disasters happen every year, and this year things could be worse than usual. Right now, we're heading into the most dangerous part of hurricane season. August through October is usually when things get bad, and NOAA's latest outlook's calling for an above average season in 2025. They're forecasting up to 19 named storms, 10 hurricanes, and as many as 5 major hurricanes. With sea surface temperatures staying hotter than normal, there's a real risk of storms rapidly intensifying, going from mild to monster overnight. Once a storm's heading your way, it may already be too late to do anything about it, and even if hurricanes aren't common where you live, there are plenty of other disasters that can hit with little or no warning at all. Tornadoes, wildfires, floods, and even earthquakes or tsunamis. We've already seen a few of those this summer. Probably the worst was the Texas floods over the July 4th weekend. Remnants of Tropical Storm Barry dumped a massive amount of rain in central Texas, and the Guadalupe River rose fast. Entire communities in the hill country were underwater within hours, and ended up being the second deadliest flood in Texas history. Homes and businesses were wiped out, roads became rivers, and thousands lost power. No one saw it coming, and very few had a plan for it. Then, just a few weeks later, we had a near miss with a massive 8.8 earthquake off Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, which triggered tsunami warnings for parts of Hawaii, Alaska, and even the U.S. West Coast. Fortunately, damage from that was minimal in most cases, but it showed how fast something can happen and how even people thousands of miles away can suddenly find themselves in danger with just hours or less to react. And one of the most critical things to have in a disaster is food and water. Grocery stores can get wiped out in a matter of hours, and if the power goes out, you can't count on refrigeration or even being able to cook. So the first step is to make sure you've got enough food and water stored at your home to get you through at least 2 weeks, and more if you can. For food, focus on shelf-stable items that don't need to be cooked or can be heated up with minimal fuel. Canned goods are some of the best options out there for this. Things like canned meats, beans, stews, soups, and vegetables are easy to find, fairly affordable, and require no refrigeration. Plus, most of them can be eaten cold straight from the can if it really comes down to it. And if you're trying to figure out which canned goods actually give you the most nutrition and calories, then I've put together a free resource to help you out with that. It's called the Canned Goods Nutrition List, and it includes all sorts of common canned foods along with their calories, protein content, and other important information. It's free for anyone who signs up for my emails, and you can do that using the link in the description below. Then for water, you want to store at least 1 gallon per person per day at a minimum, and that's just for drinking. You'll need more for cleaning, sanitation, and cooking. I prefer portable water containers like aquatainers, water bricks, or military water cans for home use, while larger barrels are better for bulk storage. You can also use other containers like food-grade 5-gallon buckets and emergency bathtub bladders for last-ditch water storage. Also, have multiple ways to purify water. Those can include gravity-fed filters, chemical treatment methods, or boiling. And really, it's best to have all of them if you can, because that'll give you a much better chance of removing all the potential contaminants, and it'll give you a safety net if one of your filters or your stoves breaks down. Next up, we have backup energy, and that's important since one of the first things that tends to go out during any major disaster is the power. Whether it's from high winds, falling trees, flooding, or just grid overload, outages are incredibly common during hurricanes, blizzards, and even severe thunderstorms. And depending on how bad the damage is, it could take days or even weeks before the power comes back on. That's why having a backup power source is one of the smartest things that you can do to prepare. Being able to run your refrigerator, charge your devices, power medical equipment, or keep lights and fans going can be a real game changer. And if you're looking for a whole home backup power solution, then the EcoFlow Delta Pro Ultra is a great option. I've been using it at my home for almost 2 years, and it's the most powerful power station I've ever tested. But before we go any further, I would like to thank EcoFlow for sponsoring us today. The Delta Pro Ultra, in its most basic form, comes with a 6.1 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, which is built to last over 3,500 charge cycles, which is about 10 years of daily use before it drops to 80% of its original capacity. That alone makes it a great choice for long-term survival, because you don't want to invest a bunch of money into something and then end up having to replace it just a couple of years later. But where the Delta Pro Ultra really shines is its expandability. You can connect it to up to 5 batteries per inverter and up to 3 inverters total. That gives you a potential max capacity of 90 kilowatt hours, which is a ton of power. If you're conservative with your usage, that could keep a well-prepared home going for several weeks, especially if you're using it in tandem with solar panels. The system can also handle a ton of output. Each inverter provides up to 7,200 watts of continuous output with 240 volt split phase support, so you can run just about anything: central air conditioners, electric water heaters, stoves, large power tools, whatever you need. You're not limited to just keeping your food cold and your phone charged. But one of the biggest advantages of a system like this, especially when compared to a gas generator, is how quiet and clean it is. There's no engine noise, no fumes, and no need to store a ton of fuel on your property. If you have portable solar panels, you can recharge it during the day and then run your devices at night. And if you have it connected to roof-mounted panels, you can keep it running constantly. For home integration, the Delta Pro Ultra is compatible with traditional transfer switches or EcoFlow's Smart Home Panel 2. I've been using the Smart Home Panel 2 with mine, and it really does make the whole experience a lot more seamless. It's basically a sub-panel that powers your most important circuits. When the grid goes down, it automatically switches over to battery power, and with online UPS mode enabled, that switchover happens in 0 milliseconds, which is fast enough to keep routers, modems, and medical gear from cutting out. To make my system even more versatile, I've paired my Delta Pro Ultra with EcoFlow's Smart Generator 3000, which is a dual fuel generator that can run on either gas or propane and can put out up to 3,000 watts. You can even configure it to automatically start when your Delta Pro Ultra gets low, charge it up, and then shut off. That keeps your home powered while using far less fuel than running a gas generator full time, and it'll recharge the Delta Pro Ultra a lot faster than portable panels alone. Now, I know that not everyone can afford to build out a 90 kilowatt hour system, and that's okay. I don't even have that. But what's great about the Delta Pro Ultra is that it's modular, so you can start small with one battery and one inverter, and then expand later as your budget allows. And since everything uses standard 120, 240 volt output, you're not locked into a weird proprietary setup. You can use whatever you already have. For my setup, I'm using it to power critical circuits like our refrigerator, freezer, microwave, kitchen outlets, bedroom fans, and our furnace blower. That covers food, comfort, and climate control without draining the battery too fast. And if you're looking for a backup power source, now is a very good time to pick one up. From now until September 21st, EcoFlow is running a storm-ready backup power promotion where you can get up to 59% off their products. And if you use my code, then you can get an additional 5% off. You can learn more about all that using the links in the description below. But when the power goes out, one of the first things you'll notice is how dark your home gets, especially at night. So having reliable emergency lighting should be one of your top priorities. For me, that means having a mix of LED flashlights, headlamps, and lanterns spread out in different areas of the house. I try to keep at least one light source in each room along with extra batteries. Headlamps are great because they free up your hands, and lanterns are nice for lighting up an entire space so that you're not trying to get things done with just one little beam of light. Then rechargeable lights or solar lanterns are good to have also. They're a good supplement to your more powerful lights and can help your battery stash last a little longer. And while candles may seem like a decent backup option, I really don't recommend them. Between the fire risk and how little light they produce, you're a lot better off sticking with safer alternatives. Then there's also the heat that they produce, which can make things a lot more uncomfortable if temperatures are already pretty warm to begin with. And climate control is another thing you need to think about. During a summer power outage, especially after a hurricane, your house can get dangerously hot and humid. Battery-powered fans or small fans you can run off of a power station work really well for this. Even a small amount of air circulation can make a big difference. You also want to block heat from coming in, so be ready to cover windows in sunny rooms using blackout curtains or blankets. Also, be sure to have plenty of lightweight, light-colored clothing and electrolyte powders to help you stay comfortable and well hydrated. Then another big part of disaster prep is making sure that your home and property are storm ready, because it doesn't matter how well stocked your pantry is if your roof gets torn off or flood water comes rushing through your front door. So the first thing to focus on is your roof, windows, and doors, because those are your home's most vulnerable points. If you live in a hurricane-prone area, it's a good idea to install storm shutters, or at the very least have some pre-cut plywood ready to go. That way you're not fighting the crowd at the hardware store when a storm's already on the way, or doing prep work when you really should be evacuating. Then garage doors are another weak point that tend to get overlooked. High winds can blow them in, which can pressurize your home and cause serious structural damage. Reinforcing them with bracing kits or locking bars can help with that and give you a little extra peace of mind. Next, clean out your gutters and downspouts so water has somewhere to go. Clogged drainage can lead to roof leaks or basement floods, and if you've got a storm drain in front of your house, keep it clear also. One pile of leaves can back up an entire street. Then walk around your yard and look for anything that could turn into a projectile. That includes patio furniture, trash cans, garden tools, even potted plants. If it's not tied down, it either needs to be secured or put inside. Also, take a look at any trees near your house and remove limbs that are too close. While we don't have hurricanes where I live, we do have tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. And what I've noticed is that pine trees are really bad about snapping in half and shedding limbs, while oak trees, they tend to be a little tougher, but they can uproot if things get really bad. So keep that in mind if you have trees right around your house. If you live in a flood-prone area, having sandbags or water barriers on hand is a good idea also. You can use them to divert water away from entry points and low spots around your home. And finally, make sure you know how to shut off your utilities. If you take a direct hit and have a gas leak or broken water line, shutting those off fast could prevent even bigger problems. Also, be sure to have plenty of pesticides for both personal and home use. After a storm, mosquitoes are going to be a big problem, especially if your area experiences heavy rain or flooding. Being able to control those will make the situation a lot less miserable. Next up is evacuation planning, and while a lot of preppers focus on bugging in, and for good reason, there are some disasters where staying put just isn't an option. Hurricanes and floods are a prime example of that. If you live in a storm surge zone, along the projected path of a major hurricane or a floodplain, sometimes the best thing that you can do is get out before things get bad. So it's important to have an evacuation plan ready to go. It should include knowing where you're going and how you'll get there, and also what you're going to take with you, because the time to figure all that mess out isn't when everything's falling apart. Get yourself a paper map and plan multiple routes out of your area, just in case one's blocked or too congested to use. If you've got family or friends out of the danger zone, talk to them ahead of time so that you're not scrambling for a place to go when time's running out. Most of us can't afford to have like a fully stocked bug out location, so instead consider staying with one of those friends or relatives who's a safe distance away from where you live, or a hotel far enough inland that it probably won't be affected. Just do whatever you can though to avoid having to crash at a shelter. Those are usually really crowded and have been known to be pretty dangerous, especially if you have young kids. Then make sure your vehicle's ready. That means having plenty of gas. During hurricane season, take special care to never allow your tank to get below half full. That's good to do all the time, but it's absolutely critical during this time of year. Also check your tires, fluids, and vehicle battery, and make sure that you have a spare tire, jack, and jumper cables or a battery jump pack in your car. You'll also want to have go bags packed and ready. Also, don't forget about comfort items for kids, and if you have pets, make sure you've got a carrier, leash, food, and vaccination records for them too. Not all shelters or hotels accept pets, so be sure to plan for that. But one of the most important things you can do is leave early. Don't wait until the roads are jammed up and gas stations are empty. If it looks like your area might get hit and officials are already talking about potential evacuations, go ahead and get out before everybody else does. You can always come back, but you can't get back time if you wait too long. Then, once the storm passes, you're not out of the woods just yet. In a lot of cases, the aftermath can be just as dangerous as the event itself, so it's important to have a plan for what you'll do and what you'll need after the dust settles. First, make sure it's actually safe to go back home or outside if you stay. Just because the skies have cleared out doesn't mean that the danger's over. There could be downed power lines, broken gas lines, flooding, or structural damage in your area. So listen to local authorities before you start moving around, and when you do start assessing damage, Be very careful. Wear boots, gloves, and sturdy clothes, and watch out for nails, broken glass, or debris that could cause injuries. And if your home took on water, don't touch anything electrical until you're sure that the power's off and it's safe. If you're using a generator, make sure it's set up outside at least 25 feet away from your home. People die every year from carbon monoxide poisoning because they either tried to run a generator in their garage or way too close to their home. Also, make sure that it's cooled off before refilling because fire and gas don't mix. When it comes to water, treat everything like it's contaminated until you're told otherwise. Boil, filter, or disinfect your water and throw out any food that may have spoiled during the outage. A good rule of thumb is that if in doubt, throw it out. As you start cleaning up, take pictures or videos of any damage for insurance claims, and if you have FEMA assistance available in your area, get registered early on and keep all of your receipts. Also, check in on neighbors, especially elderly folks or anybody with mobility issues. Sometimes just knowing that somebody's out there looking out for them can make all the difference. And finally, once things start to settle down, take some time to think about what worked, what didn't work, and how you can improve your plan before the next disaster hits, because unfortunately, it probably won't be the last one. Now, if you want to see the foods that every prepper should stockpile before this September, then click here. Or if you want to see what you need to survive in an urban environment, then click here. Once again, I'd like to thank EcoFlow for sponsoring us today. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.